2. Hello and welcome to the Opinions and Beer Podcast. I'm your host, Adam. In just a few moments, we'll be joined by Keenan Kitchens and Phillip A. Barb, or Phillip Andrew. Phillip Andrew is a Emmy-nominated producer and a professional life coach / public speaker. Very excited to have him on, and we will join them. They're currently on a Skype call. This will be our first Skype interview, so bear with us if any technical issues arise. So let's move on. Let's quickly get through the beer of the day. Today's beer of the day is Shiner Candied Pecan Porter. It is 6% in alcohol by volume. It was released during Shiner's seasonal Cold Frost sampler pack. That's the only way to get it. I'm eager to try this beer. I love porters, and I just had some candied pecans from Buc-ee's, the famous Buc-ee's gas station. I'm gonna go ahead and taste this beer. Wow. Shiner, what are you doing making delicious beer for no reason? This is like candy. This is the candy of beers. I'll say that right now. This tastes like candy in a weird beer type of way. You know, I like the fact that the sweets and the taste doesn't overpower. It's not. You still get a beer out of this. I think Shiner knows its audience. You know, they're not gonna hide the beer flavor of the beer. I'm stunned. This is a really good beer. I really have to speed on through this one, but I'm gonna give this a straight 10. I'm gonna give this a 10-star rating. Shiner's Candied Pecan Porter. I mean, good job. Tastes like candy. I believe we have a long interview scheduled. I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the interview. And here we go.
High school football, married the guidance counselor, and then, just enjoy. I just want to shoot my, target practice every Sunday with the fam. That's all I really want, man.
That sounds really nice, actually.
It doesn't it, dude? Like it's,
Like, that's a solid life right there.
I've never been around anyone that shot target practice.
Well, like not at the range. I did it in my backyard.
When?
Yeah.
Places. I did it on East Railroad, and I don't know. I grew up on a ranch in Finette. Where there was plenty of things to shoot out there.
That's awesome, man.
Well, today, jumping right in here, we are interviewing Phillip A. Barb. Is that correct? Did I say that correctly?
Yeah, Phillip Andrew is normally how it goes, but hey, Phillip A. Barb, I'm a man of many names.
Phillip Andrew. If you want to jump right into it, I see you got an Emmy nomination, I believe. Is that correct?
I do. It was fantastic. It was a lot of fun. I worked on a psychology program for YouTube Red with the show was called Minefield. We did season 1, season 2, and then they went on to do a third season. And it was just a lot of fun, man. It's with a YouTube channel called Vsauce. And then they had a lot of success with Vsauce on YouTube, and then YouTube Red launched, which was the subscription-based YouTube service, and put some money behind it, and we put together some really, really dynamic episodes that were very, very cool, and it was, an honor to be a part of that.
Now, did you said Vsauce or Vsauce? Vsauce. Yeah.
Vsauce, yeah.
Yeah, I watched a lot of videos on that channel.
Oh, awesome, man! Yeah, Michael. Hey, this is Michael from Vsauce. Yeah, it's
That's pretty cool.
Well, there you go. See, that's how it works. Now I got a fan. It works, man. I'm having a good time.
Totally.
What was it like working on that?
It was very cool, man. I mean, I love working in television. I think it's one of those industries that it just gives. There's so many moving parts. There's so many changes. So much can go wrong, but when it goes right, it really is something phenomenal, and it's a lot of fun. So, working on that program, it's just, a lot of long hours. Like, television hours, a standard day is 12. And that's normal. That's not OT. That's just a normal day, 12-hour day, 5, 6, 7 days a week. You make it work, and you just make it happen. But, the one thing I'll always say is it's the worst industry if you don't like it. And I think that's true of anything, right? Like, there's some people that love being doctors, and then there's people that hate it. And it's like, only do it if you love it. And I think that's how, lucky for me, I enjoy TV. I landed in TV. I like entertainment, and it works. And it's only because I enjoy it, I'm willing to deal with all of the chaos and annoyances, but it's a lot of fun, man. I feel very very blessed and honored that I get to enjoy that career.
That is really cool. I'm jealous.
Yeah.
Well, that's the other reason I do it. I really just want to make everybody jealous. That's really that's my whole mission in life. Has just been trying to impress people and make them admire me. It's really all I have ever wanted.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe I believe I read that you work behind the scenes for Undercover Boss. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was actually one of the first TV shows I ever worked on when I got out into the field. And I'm originally from Detroit, Michigan. Moved out to Los Angeles after I went to Michigan State University. Moved out to LA, and had never been west of Wisconsin. Man, really didn't know what I was getting myself into, and come to a swing of events, ended up being getting an opportunity to work on Undercover Boss, and that was such a really cool show. And not only because it was such a large success and a lot of people knew it, it's even funny that there's times where I've done 30 shows since then, and that's the one that people are always like, "Whoa, Undercover Boss!" But it was such a popular show that a lot of people knew. But I think one of the coolest things for me was I had the opportunity to actually sit in the room with. For any of you guys that are listeners and you don't know, Undercover Boss was a show with Fortune 500 companies where, the CEO of the company would go undercover and, and then would normally surprise the employees with, "Hey, I'm the boss," and then also normally would do some sort of nice gesture for them. That's the quick thing.
Always like, "Hey, I'm the boss, you're fired."
Yeah, and that happens too. That's actually how I got off the show. I actually got fired. No, I'm kidding.
You got undercover boss.
I got undercover bossed. I didn't know. I thought he was the valet driver, and I told him to get my car. It turned out he was the executive of the company, and I got fired. But no, but the cool thing was I had a couple of opportunities to sit in the room with the people that were on the show immediately after they had just learned that the boss was the person undercover. And I got to have a lot of conversations with them off camera. And I think the one thing that I really took away, and when I was on that show, I was working on that show, I was 23, 24 years old. I was, early in my career in Los Angeles, and even just early in my career in being in the workforce, right? Like that, actually having a career. And I think it was so special to be able to see people that, hey, we can all say we want more money, but actually, a lot of the studies say that once you hit a certain point, the money doesn't keep making you more happy. It's temporary. But the thing that so many of these people expressed was just having a genuine feeling of being appreciated. That was what, and I think if we're all on, that's what we really want. I joke about, I want you to admire me, but we just want to be seen for who we are, and we want to feel like we're bringing value to the table. And not only are we bringing value, but people appreciate it. Not everyone wants, the TV show about them. They don't need the parade to be rolled out for them. They just want to know, hey man, I see what you're up to, and you're doing a great job. And I think that if we learn anything from that, as people that are, if you're listening to this and you're an entrepreneur and you run a business, or even just in your household with your family, just make sure that you allow people to be seen, feel like they are appreciated. And that goes so far, because it really is at such a core to what we truly want as people.
Man, you're so right. I agree completely. All anyone wants to be at work is that guy that's indispensable, that everyone appreciates that you're there, and we don't want to lose you. And everyone needs money, but what really brings value from a job is what you're talking about, is being appreciated, being indispensable, and you can't put a dollar sign on that.
Yeah, I think it really is. I think they've even done, they did a study a few years ago, and I don't know if someone has come around and debunked it, but they called it, I don't know if you guys heard this, the study was based around $75,000, and they basically said that once you hit $75,000, they did all these surveys, and they talked with tons of people at all various different levels of income, and $75,000 a year annual income is the break-even point, where they say that happiness, it levels off, and it is no longer on a rising, it just doesn't get any better after that. because
or
of
it's
money.
like after $75,000, it's up to you to make yourself happy. And if $75,000 a year isn't going to make you happy, then that amount of money is going to make you happy.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of just that idea of like, hey, yeah, there are moments where like, if you're making $15K a year, it's tough and you're in survivor mode. You really like, if you're making $15K a year, and obviously like I'm massively generalizing, right? Like I don't know, but if you're making that amount of money, it's a struggle, and you're trying to just stay alive. So life is you feel like your back is against the wall. You're not. It's not as easy to just find the happy moments because you feel stressed and overworked all the time. Well, as that continues on, your life changes, but once they say, as you make a little bit more money, sure, you get a little bit happier, you get a little bit more freedom. But once you hit that 75K mark, it kind of levels off, and it's like once that is, then it's everyone's kind of you're in it, and everyone is obviously they're doing a better job in the essay than what I am doing right now, and but. Normally
it has to do with just the.
Normally, I'm much better.
I feel like the people that get kind of promoted are kind of more of the narcissist people, and the people that already think they're above you. And
maybe that's why
they kind of get targeted.
Shine on them for promotion because they're doing.
But I feel like it's these people that it's like you're not really going to be appreciated by someone who only cares about themselves. And that's just, I feel like that's kind of like another issue with a lot of these jobs.
Well, there's always going to be people like that. And people like that are always going to rise to power because they're only looking out for themselves and they achieve what they set out to do at the expense of others. So ergo, they'll just always be there.
Well, I think there's a little truth to that. I think it's important to not paint that broad stroke, right? There's definitely always the idea that a lot of times we want to villainize people that have made their way to the top, and there's actually a term for it, and I can't remember it, but it's this idea that a lot of people have a belief that to be able to get to a level of success, you must have had to do something dirty along the way to get there.
Yeah, we have for a fashion be a bad person. You can't. Be a bad person to get there.
And I think that's a dangerous. I think that can be a very dangerous mindset to hold on to, this idea that, everybody everyone in the 1% is an evil person, right? Like, and I think, I don't want to get too political because it's not really a place that I speak too intelligently about. But I think there's a lot of that landscape in our current climate in America, where we have a lot of people that have that feeling that, this 1%, these 1%ers, the 1%, they must be evil. They are terrible people. They are off, and I don't know where, I don't. There's a lot of times that people don't have a specific way to pinpoint where they come up with that belief. I think it's just something that people start to say, and then nobody really challenges it, and then they just roll with it.
To think that, like, this guy's rich because he's evil, I'm poor because I'm a good person. It makes them feel better.
And there's some truth to that, right? And here's the fact: there's a lot of bad people in the 99%. So to think that, I think what I've learned to try to do the best that I can is to stay away from gross generalizations of people. Like I've said many times, like, I'm a straight white man, and those are, 3 characteristics of probably only about 975 that make me who I am. And so it's at times it's like I don't want to ever be put into a box or have somebody think that, you know everything about who I am because of one of those characteristics. So I try to do my best, and it is difficult, but I try to do my best to not do that to other groups of people based on any type of category or categorization that we want to try to place on them.
I was thinking earlier when Adam was talking that, like, I've seen rich corporate bosses. They're pulling up in their Audi while I'm walking to work and all that, and I thought of them as the rich evil asshole. But then I put myself, I thought about that individual, not just that niche, but like I put myself in that person's shoes. Like, God forbid he's made it, he's got an Audi and he's doing better than me. It doesn't make him a bad person, and so you can't just tear everyone apart like that.
Right. Well, and then here's the flip side, right? Like, and just to have, I do coaching, and it's always fun to like just pick apart the words, right? Even you saying, he's doing better than you,
Yeah.
right? Like just that idea of why is that a belief that just because somebody has a car that costs a little bit more money than yours, that is somehow they are doing better? Because the truth is, once again, that is his car is one element of his life, and he could be going home and he could have a toxic environment at home. He could have, a family member that's sick. There's,
the guy was angry all the time. God, I had no idea how he treated his wife, but never seen the dude happy.
Well, and I mean, here's the one thing, right? Like, I've always loved the saying, hurt people hurt people. And it is very, very true that, like, if someone is really genuinely happy and enjoying their life, they're too busy happy to be mean and angry, right? Like, generally when people are angry, there's a lot of theories that's, or not even theories, I think it's, kind of proven that, like, anger is really just kind of an offshoot of fear. So when people are very angry, it's more that they're just experiencing a lot of fear.
Oh, yeah, man. Like,
and so you get someone that's...
For a lot of things. Like, I think about that. When I get angry, you can always pinpoint it like, I'm angry because I'm afraid that you're attacking my something I'm subconscious about, or I'm angry because I'm afraid that you're thinking something that's untrue. Like every time I'm angry, I can pinpoint it to some form or fashion of fear. You're very correct on that.
Yeah, we are all we're so selfish, and it's something to understand that, like, almost all of I always love when they say it's like when you look at somebody's behavior, like the way that somebody treats you says a lot more about how they feel about themselves than how they feel about you. If someone is, you might have a bad conversation with a person, but like if they're the type of person that's having that all over, like they got to live with themselves all the time. Like that's, if I got to deal with a bad boss and I got to suffer through 6-7 hours a day of them, like that guy or that girl that, they got to live with themselves. Like that's kind of a bummer, so I try to always look at it from that standpoint. If they're being rude, if they're being angry, I always kind of just take a pause and I'm like, man, I don't know what that person's going through. I hope their day gets better. Anything I can do to maybe, any way that, because it doesn't bother me. Like the way that they treat me, it doesn't really affect me. I know who I am. I know the type of man that I am. I feel very comfortable and confident in the man that I am. And so I don't allow compliments to make me get too high, and I also don't let ridicule crush me too much. And I just try to use those things as ways that I can still just be more self-aware. Socrates had this really cool quote that he talked, he had, back in his day, Socrates, anyone that doesn't know, ancient philosopher in ancient Greece. Right. And many people, he had haters in his day. He actually eventually was put to death because of people not liking the way that he talked and his influence. But Socrates would, he had people that would basically, essentially the question was like, yo, how do you handle your haters, right? Like in whatever their words were.
Cut to thousands of years later, and now Socrates is like the epitome that he's parallel. I can't think of the word. He's literally parallel with philosophy.
Oh yeah, I mean they call him the godfather of modern thought, right? Like he is the king of philosophy, or at least the beginning stages of it. And I think it was, they said when he was asked this, like, how do you handle your haters? He basically just kind of said, and I'm paraphrasing, but this idea that, hey, if somebody says something to you about you, is it just? So you look at it and you go, okay, is this true? What they're saying about me, is it true? If it's true, then, have the maturity to be able to say, okay, maybe I need to adjust how I'm behaving. And if it's not true, and if you've looked at it objectively and you're not behaving that way and they're just flat out wrong, then just disregard it. It doesn't need to be anything more than, hey, can this feedback help me be a better person? And if it's not accurate, then just move on.
What's funny is, like, you were talking earlier about, like, just being that person, that toxic person who's angry all the time. They're angry 7 hours at work and they yell and scream. And you're talking about that person has to live with themselves, not you but them. What's funny is, like, I found myself becoming that person. I went down that slope, and I was getting like angrier and angrier every day, and just treating more and more people like crap at work, at home, everywhere. And Yeah, like I know exactly what it feels like to be that person and have to live with yourself. And
that's actually why I'm on. This is an intervention, actually. That's why I was asked to be on the. This is the intervention for you.
No, I don't kick that habit of screaming at people.
So, Keenan here. I have like a shit ton of questions, but I'm glad we're just getting into this one.
Yeah.
But Keenan here tomorrow is going to jail.
I am going to jail tomorrow.
All right.
Yeah, dude. Like,
Man.
no, I'm not like, I didn't get in any trouble. I just want to go. No.
Yeah, just go to hang out. You're just gonna go. You're gonna go and sit outside like it's a club and see if they'll let you in.
Yeah, no, dude. 3 hots and a cots for 10 days and like no work. Just laying about reading. I can't.
There you go.
No, but it's a step. Like I've been trying to better myself for a while now, and my first step was stop being angry all the time, find happiness beyond my finances. Like my finances doesn't define how happy I am. Like these are steps that I just went through. And now, but I do need to build myself financially. I'm 30 years old, and I've worked nothing but fast food. And so, but my first step is taking care of this. I got a little tiny warrant. 2 years ago, I got caught with a joint. And Texas threw the book at me, man. They made me pay $1,000 for that joint. And I was...
Some expensive weed, man. That's some expensive weed.
I know, right, man? And... I was in a weird situation where I was working remodeling, and then I turned out to be working for a crackhead, and I finished 3 houses for this guy. He owed me $3,000, and he never gave me a dime. So that, as a result, that fine turned into a warrant. So that's what I'm taking care of tomorrow. Is I'm going to sit out that $1,000 fine. It should be $100 a day, which should just be 10 days.
Sure. Well, first off, I mean, the one thing I'll say, man, is. Kudos to you, man, for handling your responsibility, right? You made, you got caught up in the legal system, which happens, and you could either run and you run from it and you avoid your problems, or you say, hey, look, there's consequences to our actions, and you step up and you say, all right, I'm ready to handle that, and let's move forward. And I think that is, first off, there's a lot of maturity in that, man. So I think that's something that you can definitely, I commend you for, right? For me, I do a lot of outreach. So I go into the I'm here in LA, and, I go into the LA County jail system and speak with inmates about substance abuse and things like that. And, I'm a cop's kid, man. So, I've had my run-ins with, I'm the cop's kid who's been arrested, 4 times. And it's just, it's an interesting thing. And I'm sure we could dive into that. But, I think there's one instance where, to how we take this, instead it's just about the 3 of us, but to anyone that's listening, the way we were raised, you can have the greatest 2 parents or the worst 2 parents, but the same thing is it's only 2 human beings. You know what I'm saying? They are going to have holes in their game. There's going to, a lot of parents, they make a lot of mistakes because they're human beings.
Yeah,
most people don't study child development. There's this idea of kids have been being born for thousands of years, and why do I need to read the parenting book, right? But there's tons of information out there, but most people don't have it, and that's fine, right? We are not, when we look at our childhood, it is not our fault how we were raised. I'll say it one more time because I think you were throwing things in the back. No,
Yeah,
but we're not. It's not our fault how we were raised, but, or I should say, yet we all have a responsibility to make sure that we are, becoming adults. So it's at this point, and we all have different starting points, and that's why it's really difficult for anyone to truly. You can't really judge yourself based off of other people. I think we should get into that in a moment because I think it'd be a good segue.
Oh yeah.
But I think it is one of those things where, as adults now, we have and it takes responsibility. Personal responsibility means taking ownership of who you are, your decisions, what you do have control over, which is only yourself. We have no control over any other person out there. So you take when you take, I hate to say the word extreme ownership because that's a Jocko thing. But when you take that ownership of your life and you say, I am going to take responsibility, responsibility, you break the word down. And it is, I have the ability to respond to what is going on in my life. I have the ability to respond to my life in a positive and meaningful way
Man,
And when you make that decision, like, it's such a power, it's such a freedom, and so empowering to be able to take that responsibility on.
yeah, like, dude, I am very, I agree with everything you're saying. I'm very much enjoying talking to you. Like, you're talking about, like, literally this journey that I'm kind of just started. It's just starting to, the wheels starting to turn, you know. And like you're saying, everyone starts at a different point. Like, you're literally talking about the story I'm in the middle of. You know, it's crazy.
And
It's
I bet a lot of it has to do with just, you probably have a lot of destructive thinking.
Who, me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I know, dude. I'm trying to right all these wrong. Dude, I'd spent my 20s not worrying about anything but, like, just getting high and having fun. And now I was like, oh, crap, I'm 30. Now, like, I'm just starting my life. I should have started my life straight out of high school at 18, but I did not. So now I am. You know?
He never got to finish high school.
Oh, yeah, I dropped out to do more drugs and stuff.
Yeah. Well, you know, here's the one thing I'll say, man, is, you know, you're in a really pivotal yet very powerful position. You know, you have an ability to, whether or not you have the attention of one person in your life, or if you've got the attention of 15,000, right? You have an ability to take your story, which is unique to you, and be able to start changing it for yourself that will benefit you and serve you in the long run. And then also your story, you know, I can't tell your story because I've never lived it, but you get to. Your story is so powerful because there's other kids out there, there's other people that have been there, and there's going to be, trust me, there's going to be more kids that walk that same line that grow up more like you than they did me. And you're going to have an ability to impact people in a positive and powerful way. And for me, I personally believe that that's, you know, that connection to other people is where we find so much value in our lives. Like that, you know, they say life is, you know, the meaning of life is finding meaning for your life. But I think service is one of the key ingredients to being able to live a happy, joyous, you know, self-fulfilling life, to be able to serve other people. And you're in a very, very powerful place. Now, the flip side, right? You could go to jail. You could get very, very angry at the system. You could get angry at the world. Something could happen while you're there. You get angry with a guy. You get in a fight. Your anger gets the hold of you. You get into it. You know, like you could go off, like, you know, you could go off the deep end here, right? Or you could take the responsibility and you turn this into, you know, in 15 years, this may be the greatest gift that you've ever been given. You know, it really could be. But only time will tell, and only your response to this scenario in this circumstance, the way that you make a decision to think about this and what you want this circumstance to mean in your life and for your life is going to, it could determine, you know, the next 15, 20 years of your life for you.
Oh, yeah. And yeah, it's so easy. I could get angry at the system. I mean, this is bull crap that I gotta warn. It's bull crap that I gotta spend 10 days in jail just because a tiny little joint, which nobody cares about weed anymore. And that had a lot to do with what Texas threw the book at me while there's a book to still throw at me. You know, before weed's 100% legal. That's what happened. But you know, and it's. I could get angry, but it's no big deal. I mean, like, nothing but negativity is going to come from negativity. You're never going to get negative about something and get positive results out of that negativity.
Yeah, definitely, man. Where do you guys want to go now? Man, we're moving. We got so many different ways
This is really great. Man, you're really good at talking.
Yeah, man, it's like we don't even know. I can just talk to you all day, man.
Oh, dude. Well, no,
Yeah.
you know, I appreciate it, and you know, it's interesting because, you know, even coming into the, you know, it's funny. This almost might be something fun to just kind of talk about, but you know, I'm a very, you know, I've been sober for I'm coming up the end of the month will be 11 years, which I love that I'm on a Opinions and Beer podcast. It's fantastic.
Right.
And you know, so I've been sober for 11 years. I've been, you know, almost, and I've been in this world. I'm a coach. I'm a motivational speaker for high school and college kids, and I do all this stuff. And so I try to be a very, very positive guy. I read. I'm very well studied on, you know, psychology and philosophy and, you know, all these different things. And yet, you know, even as where we're at today, we're speaking, you know, I've just had a day where I've been kind of just letting every little thing bug me, you know, like it's in just not handling, just letting the stress of life kind of overwhelm me at moments, right? So I think it's a cool thing to kind of talk about, because even as a person here, right, that I try to do my best to help, and I actually coach people and walk them through this thing, and that it's even easy for all of us and somebody like me to have moments where you're like, I do just want to kind of be angry at the world today. Like I do. I just want to, I want to find a little bit of happiness in hating everything, and it's like, I think that's a realistic thing that so many of us go through. And they talk about, a lot of people have mentioned the idea of there's times when people, and you guys tell me if you relate to this, but it's like you're upset, or you're not happy, and then you get angry at yourself that you're not happy. Like you're like, oh, I should be more happy, but I'm not happy. And then, but why am I not happy? I know I should be happy. And then it ends up being this like spiral.
I know exactly what he's talking about.
It's this like spiral effect. When the truth is, it's not about. What I learned from my drinking and using is like I was running away from emotions that I thought were undesirable.
Addictions can come from that train of thought. Like, oh, I'm not happy because I don't have weed, and now I'm angry because I don't have weed because I just discovered.
Hey! They say you can't be addicted to weed.
No, but you can be dependent.
Yeah. And it's you can it's what it represents, right? It's for me, I had as a kid I had a little bit of anxiety. Did I fit in? Am I cool enough? Am I funny enough? Am I smart enough? Oh my God! Am I good enough? All this stuff, and then like I would drink, and it would eliminate those thoughts. So instead of being able to properly work through those thoughts in a mature fashion, and as an adult, I would just scapegoat and I would go right to the drug or the alcohol. So then I didn't have to worry about it. So then. But now what I've had to do, and what a lot of people do, right, is like when you take that buffer away, when you take away the drugs, when you take away the alcohol, now you have to sit in that emotion. In a really cool thing that we can do is just you start asking yourself questions. You're like, all right, man, look, I'm frustrated right now. Why? Like, why am I, okay, or I'm really angry right now. I'm feeling angry. Great. Okay, let's sit in this emotion. Like, why? Why are you angry? What are you angry about? I'm angry at this thing. Okay, cool. Like, why are you angry? And you just keep asking yourself why. And you either figure out like, hey, there's a deeper issue here. There's actually something bigger that I'm angry at or frustrated or scared or whatever it is, and getting to the root cause. Or sometimes you realize like, oh man, I'm really not that angry at anything. I just haven't made the decision to not be angry right now. Yeah, which happens all the time.
You come to the solution of the problem, or you come to the solution that there never was a problem.
Yeah, and I mean the brain is just fascinating, dude. Yeah, like it really is.
I know it's hard, and it's really hard to get back on track, especially when maybe you're surrounding yourself with toxic people, or people that are constantly
doing the same activity,
devoiding what your goals are.
Like when I'm trying to be a positive person and I find myself just surrounded by nothing but the most negative people. Man, sometimes you gotta just like cut ties, man. I just had to jump up and move away from everyone negative. Like I was living with my mom and my brother in Louisiana, and I just had to cut ties with them and move back to Texas. Like I love them to death and I love spending time with them, but oh man, they just have nothing. And it's not like they're bad people or anything. It's just their thought process is so negative. Like they'll have even their happy thoughts are negative somehow.
Yeah, there's I had obviously being a coach, and I have a coach, and because I think that's important. And I remember one time I was going through a situation where I was having an issue with somebody personal in my life, and it was kind of along those same lines. And he asked me a very, very simple question. It was very, very simple. I was running circles around talking about this and then this and what about this scenario, blah, 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 blah. He asked a very, very simple question. And he just said, Phillip, does this relationship steal your peace? Does it steal your peace? And it was such a simple question, and it was such an easy answer. Like, yes. And he was like, okay. So then it's time to move on. It's time to end that relation. And it wasn't, I didn't go in and call this person and say, hey, we're no longer friends because you are stealing my peace. Like it wasn't that. It was, we had many times where we tried to mend the friendship, make things work. It didn't work. it was stealing my peace, and you just let it fade away. And then what happened when I allowed that negative and I don't even want to call it full on toxic, but when I just let that relationship and fade away, it opened up roster spots. It opened up roster spots for other amazing people that had more similar thought processes, that were moving in the same direction that I was moving. It opened up more space for me to develop other strong male relationships, and now I have I have amazing friends, and it just we are there's this idea that we have to be with the same people for our whole lives, when the truth is I look at people in a lot of ways. And this is a very famous poem that's out there. It's like reasons, seasons, and forever. And there's some people that come into our world for a very specific reason, for a very specific reason in time in our lives. There's people that come in for a season. Maybe you're friends with them for 2, 4, 5 years. Maybe it's a relationship that you have and you grow together and then you move away. There is a very, very small percentage of people that are ever meant to be forever people in your life. That doesn't mean that relationships have failed or that anything is wrong. It just means that that's not what that relationship was meant to be.
Yeah, I know what you mean, having like you just hit the nail on the head with literally what I'm going through again. Man, I just got through, taking a step back from a toxic relationship with a friend. And I never, like you said, I never thought, oh, well, fuck that guy, we're just no longer friends. But it's just I'm just happy to not be his wingman now. I'm happy to be able to do my own things and get the things, like you said, he was taken away from my peace, there's 20, is he a bad guy? Is he doing bad things? Was he a bad influence? That's 21 other questions that is neither here nor there, but he was taken away from my peace. That was the main thing, like you were talking about. And I had to take a step back from that and I had to move away from that roommate. And it just opened up nothing but doors of opportunity for me, just like you're saying.
I just want to say I have nothing but good friends. Personally.
and I know exactly what you're talking about. I've always envied people who have stayed in their same town throughout their from childhood to adulthood and grown up with that one childhood friend. I moved 7 times and I had a different best friend 7 different times, and Adam's number 8.
Yeah. I think that's a good point, right? To kind of what we were going to dive into earlier, right? This. The comparison game, right? The comparison game that we have is, we set these expectations of what we think of our life is supposed to be, or what it is, and then we just get frustrated all day when we look at our lives and it's not what we think it should be, right? And we use social media to compare ourselves with other people. We do, whether it's followers, their outfits, where they live, trips they go on, who they're dating, all these different things. And the truth is, and I love this. I heard this guy, the guy talk about, this is a big Jordan Peterson thing. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Dr. Jordan Peterson, but yeah. And he has, in one of his 12 rules of life, he talks about this of the only person that you really truly can compare yourself is who you were yesterday. And, in a science, I come from these psychology shows, right, where we did all these experiments. Anyone that, you study science and or even if you just understand the basics of it, for you to have a successful experiment, you need to be able to isolate the variables. So down to a fact of you need to be able to know when you make one little tweak, how that's affecting the outcome. You have to get things as simple, and you have to minimize the different how many variables are in action. For someone, I'm turning 33 later on this week. Keenan, you mentioned you're in your 30s. Adam, I don't know, you're probably late 20s, early 30s, right?
27.
Yeah,
27.
I'm exactly 30. I'm turning 31 later this year.
Right, but if you sit and thought, right? I mean, I don't even know what the estimation is, but if you thought, even just for the sake of a number, let's say we make 10,000 choices a year, right? It's probably more than that.
Yeah, it's probably 10 million.
Right, but let's just say 100,000 choices a year, right? So That's 100,000 different variables every year for each of us, right? So even if, here's the thing, Adam and me, even if Adam and I were born in the same household with the same parents, we would still be so vastly different because of those 100,000 choices that we made in our lives, to a place where it wouldn't even, from science standpoint, it would make no sense to try to draw any type of real comparison that's worth anything, because our lives have just, so we are guys that grew up in different areas. We've dated different people. We've gone to different schools. We've had different experiences. We've made different choices. The amount of variables that are so vastly different for, myself, Phillip, to compare myself with Adam, or to compare myself with Keenan, it's just a bad experiment. It's a flawed design for us to try to compare ourselves with anyone.
And that's about
almost
everybody does
yesterday
throughout life.
It becomes so like artificial almost.
Yeah.
To where like even every aspect becomes near artificial and forever changing. And you see these mainstream, like more like mainstream news, and they'll do polls out there, and they'll poll 10 people and blast it as clickbait articles where like 10 people believe one thing. I zoned out in the middle of
I think it's just
you can get those polls from like almost like that's why I never trusted polls. Like we asked 10,000 people and they all say the same thing. Well, okay, those are 10,000 people.
Four variables,
that's
And usually it's 10 people.
Yeah, well they say 10. They put 10,000 on the website, but they only asked 10.
Yeah.
Now
it's
Kevin Hart.
Yeah, and I mean that becomes something that is, that comparison to other people can be so detrimental for our happiness. It really can be. It can be so, because then we start to get down on ourselves. We start to think that, I should have been this way, or life should be this way, or if only, there's a couple of things that are very dangerous, right? The word "should" is very dangerous. And if only I should. That. And the truth is, like, those hypothetical things, right? Like, they're fine if you want to just use them as a moment to, take
maybe
yourself.
Better
and,
yourself
it's always good to take yourself out of a situation and kind of brainstorm and think about different stuff. And you can be like, oh, well, what if this happened, or if only, just to kind of think and get a better wide perspective.
To encourage yourself.
Like to put yourself in someone else's shoes is a really important quality to have, especially from empathy standpoints. But if you then are using those phrases to beat yourself up all the time about how you're not good enough and how you're not living up to some sort of expectation, or how your life should be this, or you should be farther along, or you should have more money, or like.
Oh man, I can play the if only thing all day. Like
I zoned out, but that's my point. I was trying to make that the world tries to shape us to think that the rest of the world is thinking one certain way.
Yeah.
And every single person has a different opinion, and I feel like modern media.
It's like I was gonna say like TV
kind
stuff
of contributes to the self-hatred that we have, because why don't I think the way that everyone else thinks?
Well, because they want you to have that self-hatred as far as being a consumer. Like, oh well, if I just had the same TV as that guy, and stuff like that,
So do you think that?
Oh yeah, if I just had the same TV as that guy, he's got a 50-inch curved Samsung. I freaking want it.
That's kind of Illuminati. I want us all to think the same way.
But no, see, that's dude. My whole life, I've always been like admittingly materialistic. Other people, they like to, people brag like, "Oh man, I'm not materialistic." It's either way. Like, items don't make me happy, and I'm like, "Well, screw you. Items make me happy. I hate my little bitty ass TV. I want a bigger one."
And all this stuff kind of just mentally contributes to us. Like, you see the commercial, it's like, oh, whatever, commercial. But then you see Bob has that fucking thing. And you're just like,
oh. Yeah, dude, like, I'm just now, here it is 2019, and I got a PS4, my first PS4, like 3 months ago. I've been rocking the PS3 until now,
and here's what it plays on, right? And it's interesting that you brought this up, because, a good marketer, right? The job of an advertiser is to make you feel like, hey, your life would be better if you had what I'm selling you. Like that's the point, right? It's, hey, and it can be on all scales, from the like, hey, your life is miserable without this product, to just, hey, life would be a little bit better with this thing, right? There's all different variances of where the advertisers go with how they choose, but there is that idea that, hey, you have worked hard for this money, and the best thing you can do with that money is give it to me for something that we've created that will actually make you a better person. It will help your life. You'll be more likable. You'll be more attractive to the opposite sex. You will be able to be a happier person. It's in what happens is we buy into it, because a lot of us have been raised, or we just have never done the thinking and stepping outside of it from ourselves to say, my value is not attached to my place in the world, right? Like, your value is not an external thing that can be judged by other people, and that we should be trying to, we have to have the car, and we got to look a certain way, and we got to have a certain type of, environment that we live in, and we got to, because we think that somehow is getting us these magical points, these magical societal points that make us more of a valuable person, when the truth is, the true value of human all comes from who they are and how you feel about yourself. Those are choices that we get to make, and that it's not, we are born with that choice of knowing what our value is in this world, and then we get taught through society, through environments, we get taught to hand that responsibility over, that responsibility that is ours, self-esteem, key word being self. It's our decision to decide how we feel about ourselves, but people hand that over, and they hand it to society, they hand it to their girlfriend, they hand it to their boyfriend, to their parents, to other people, they hand it to the guys that they hang out with at work. We hand over our ability to decide how we feel about ourselves, and we give it to other people that are more unreliable than we are.
Yeah.
So it's like it's a very fascinating, and it's not like it's some conspiracy. It's just humans being humans.
It's human nature. Like, and I don't know. Like, I always go back to admitting, like, man, I want some nice things, and like nice things make me feel better about myself. And maybe I'm wrong for that, but it's like the way I see it is like, I'm never gonna like feel good about myself, like living in a slum, wearing like hand-me-down clothes, like for the same, like, say I got like, I've been in a situation where I've lived in a slum-ass trailer, and I had like I had 2 shirts and 2 pair of pants, and that's the only kind of clothes I had for like 3-4 years. I lived in that, and I never once felt good about myself. And I put myself through all that psychology of like, it's not about what you have, it's not about what you live, it's not about what you drive, it's not about what you wear. But I still woke up feeling like crap, But of course, I got myself out of that situation, and that's what it goes back to self-worth. Like, as humans, like, I don't know, it's people judge people like what you have is what you accomplishment is a testimony to your character, and what you have or have not accomplished is I don't know, let me put that different. What you have or have not accomplished is a testimony to your character. Ergo, what you have is a testimony to your character. And if this guy only like is wearing trash clothes and lives in a crap trailer, then he obviously doesn't have any form, fashion, responsibility or sense of hard work. And that's why I felt like crap every day. Because I didn't have any form, fashion, sense of responsibility or sense of hard work. And then as soon as I gained that, I was out of that situation.
And how did you find, what was the most effective thing for what helped you get out of that situation?
Oh man, just like one, literally thought. Like, I just came to the point, like I don't know, I just like one day got tired of it, and then realized that it was all my doing, and I hit the ground running. I got a crap job, used that crap job to save up money to get a vehicle, used that vehicle to look around for a better job, got a better job, and then got a better apartment with that better job, and then, and then the story goes from there.
And then what happened?
And then I lost it all, but we're not going to get to that.
And then what happened? And then you lost it all for talking on the job.
Yeah. Oh no, that was the job after the job. That was a crazy story. That's crazy.
But But yeah, hey, how does one? You're really good at talking, and I can just sit here and listen to you. How does one become a public speaker?
So everybody has different paths. So all I can really speak to is kind of how mine went. But for me, and it's interesting because it's totally a thing where you can't really you can't really connect the dots moving forward. Like you can only connect the dots moving backwards. But for me, I was as a young kid, my mother, my father, they had me involved in in speech contests. I did I was involved in theater and things like that. And so I got, from a young age, I at least got a lot of exposure to being in front of people and communicating. So it helped me. I never really had a lot of the, that anxiety of being in front of people communicating that a lot of other people experience. And I'm very, very grateful for that. I feel very lucky and blessed. When I was 17 years old, I started DJing professionally. I had my first, paid DJ gig as a 17-year-old. And that career, continued through, through the end of my teenage years, into my 20s. I still will DJ from time to time. And so that was another thing of having the microphone in my hand, getting more comfortable with being in front of individuals. Once it started to shift, because there's a big difference between, hosting a hot body contest with Amy and Lisa while everybody cheers her on at the club. There's a big difference between that and then me standing in front of 1,500 kids talking about substance abuse and peer pressure and things like that, right? So it's a big leap. But I think what it ends up being for me is I care a lot about the process of I want to find ways to be the most efficient and effective and to be able to communicate the best amount of information to people when I'm up there. For me, it's not about me trying to be I don't try to be cool. I'm not up there trying to be, it's not about me. It's about the message that I'm trying to convey because I feel like it's about service to other people, and that's why I speak. So I study a ton. I'll tell you what, podcasting is a great way. It's a great way to start to develop out what you believe, what you think, getting more and more comfortable talking and you start to develop your style, your cadencing. Public speaking, the one thing that I'll say about it is there's a lot of tips and tricks. And it's almost like anything, right? You have to learn all the rules so that you then can break some of them. If I get up there and if I try to speak like Tony Robbins, or if I try to speak like an Eric Thomas or a Gary Vee, or if I'm out there trying to speak like a Susie Orman, or if I'm trying to be, Joel Osteen, if I'm out there trying to do any of that and be anyone else, I'm not being authentic to who I am as Phillip Andrew. And I think a lot of times people can get caught in that, like, oh, well, maybe I need to speak more like that person, or I need to walk like them, or I need to hold myself like them. The truth is, the best thing that you can ever do is do the deep dive work on yourself to start cleaning up your baggage as an individual. It's what we call cleaning your side of the street. If you can look through your upbringing, your childhood, your adolescence, what's going on in your life now, and you can start to clean up all that mess that has accumulated over the years, you just start getting this there's just less in the way. There's less stuff that I'm carrying around. So I don't have a lot of secrets in my life. I have very strong, friendships and people that I speak with on a consistent basis where I'm always letting them know what's going on in my life. I've gone through tons of resentments that I used to have towards people in my life. I've worked through so much of that through, the 12 steps of AA, through 12 steps of CR, through meeting with, with coaching and all these different things. I've eliminated so much of this and I've done the work that when I step on stage, people see me. When you guys hear me talk, this is who I am. Yeah. This isn't a character. This isn't like a high energy Phillip Andrew that this is the voice I put on for podcast. My friends joke, this is how I talk. If I'm at your house and at your birthday party, I don't care. I don't care about Clemson, Alabama. I care about deep rooted stuff. Let's talk about humanity. Let's talk about what you're feeling. That's just who I am, and that's how I've become. Yeah. So that's where my confidence in this realm comes, because I've put in the work.
Right. What do you think are some of the biggest obstacles with reaching youth? Do you think that technology is always advancing. We have access to knowledge way faster than ever before,
and they think differently now.
Do you think? Do you ever have that feeling that maybe the kids are sitting there watching you? That who's this older guy trying to give me advice?
Totally, 100%. I think it's so important to meet people where they're at, right? Like you have to, I have to alter things. There's ways I'm going to talk to a group of 15, 16, 17-year-olds that is definitely different than when I walk into LA County Jail and I start talking to, you know what I'm saying? Like it's definitely, it's definitely something that I can't walk in there and be like, hey guys, let's talk about celebrities that I know. And like you guys are like,
how are you all feeling today, class?
Right? Yeah, so it's total. It definitely is.
I'm feeling
different.
super.
It's not about, and this is one thing where a lot of speakers get lost. Is your message can be your message, but you have to be able to tell it in a way that will connect. You have to meet your audience where your audience is at.
Right, you have to know your audience first.
Yeah, so if I go in there and I'm just trying, if I come in and I'm trying to, I guess for me, and here's one thing that I will say. One of the best things that I learned with kids is, I actually very rarely, I don't say the word kids anymore. You know?
Because now kids are like feeling like they're adults when they're 8 and shit.
Well, but you know what? In honesty,
they got an iPhone 10 and all that.
I hold that away. Like they, some of the best things, like kids are talked down to all the time, and not new kids. We were talked down to.
Yeah, I was about to say that. Yeah, I remember like that being a problem, man. Like, oh my God, just like treat me with respect, and maybe I might have more responsibility.
Yeah, we forget that. When we get older, our ego tells us that, you're just a kid. You'll learn when you're older. It's like, hey, no, how about me now? Like, talk to me now. And so that's the one thing that I would hope that every young adult would feel when they talk with me, is that I don't see you as a 13-year-old kid who doesn't have his life together and doesn't know what's going on. You get talked to like a human, like an adult. I'm not gonna, hey, little Jimmy, no, I'm gonna talk to you like you're an adult. I'm gonna treat you with respect. I'm gonna ask you questions. I'm gonna allow, and I think that's the biggest place. There's a massive difference between teaching kids what to think and teaching them how to think. And I think too often we get caught up as adults, as administrators, as parents, that we feel like we need to implant all this wisdom in this kid and teach this kid all of these things when, sometimes the source isn't even that great. When the truth is, how about we ask kids questions? How about we ask the kid what's going on, what they're thinking, and instead of being so angry or trying to put a kid in his place or, try to ridicule him to where you course correct his actions. And just talking with kids and asking them questions, letting them feel like they have a voice, right? This goes back to the Undercover Boss things. Letting them understand that they're appreciated for who they are. Not for some person they're going to be in 20 years, but let a 13-year-old, let a 16-year-old say, hey, you know what, Mike? Tell me what's going on, man. I'm here to listen to you. Like, oh, interesting. Why do you feel that way? Like, I'm going to see you. I'm going to let you be seen and understood, and I'm going to appreciate what you have to say. And that right there, treating someone like they are an adult, that goes such a long way with kids, man.
Yeah, and dude, that puts in perspective every single argument I've ever had with every teacher, period. Just
treating you poorly.
I grew up, I don't know, like, in hindsight, I was just a dumb kid, but I always felt older and more mature, but that's just because I was out drinking and smoking, even though I was, like, 13 or 14. But, I was like, man, I'm an adult, man. Like, I got a pack of cigarettes in my pocket. I'm an adult. Treat me like an adult, I'm going to go. And, of course, they didn't.
But here's the thing. That's because you weren't having that conversation with someone, right? Yeah. Because here's what had happened. If I had met you at 14, right?
Yeah.
I would have asked you a really simple question. And it would have been like, hey, man, what is it about having cigarettes in your hand that makes you feel more like an adult?
Well, what do y'all want to answer? I'm 30 now. My answer would be irrelevant.
But here's the thing: did anyone ever ask you that?
No, of course. You made that.
This is what we call there's these there's a lot of, they call them a lot of different things, but these little stories that we tell ourselves, some people call them rackets, right? Like we design these what we think is a fact. That thought process is, if I have cigarettes in my hand, it makes me an adult, right? Like that's the thought process, right? That's the truth that you would create. That was the story that you were telling yourself.
Why I ever started smoking when I was a kid and shit,
Right. And so that's the story you tell yourself, and then you carried that on with you until something happened where that course corrected, or maybe you still believe that, right? And there are times where we, as adults, we have to look at our lives, and when we have these things that we say, well, no, this is who I am. Well, is it? Why? Why do you believe that? And we so rarely ask ourselves those questions.
That reminds me of, I seen a meme that it's like, and this is just kind of a joke, but it did hit the nail on the head. Whenever it said that, people ask me why I stay at home all the time, and that's because I was out doing the shit that you're doing now when I was 17. And and it's like I felt like an adult. Like I was out drinking and partying and smoking and fighting and blah, blah, blah. And I felt like older and tougher and better than the other kids because I was like 14 or 15 and doing that shit. And they were in the Pokemon.
Yeah. And why do you think that was what resonated with you?
Because that was just what was put on to me by probably someone else, or so, I just kind of adopted that belief. I'm sure.
Keenan's had quite a childhood. His father stabbed him with a broom.
I mean, we can get into that all day.
No,
but
he is
that's a weird starting point. Is all I'm saying.
I feel like you were kind of pressured into adulthood based on growing up,
being tough and
your
shit.
Your parental figures kind of. It's kind of weird. It's kind of the opposite effect of what we're talking about now, of treating teenagers
like they're
adults. But they were treating Keenan too much like an adult. Like they were right there with him to where he was.
Like my mom got pot from me, and
he was kind of being forced into that. So there's kind of a gray line you got to meet.
Well, and then there was probably a moment, and I'm paraphrasing, and and you tell me if I'm wrong, but there might have almost been a point where what you were experiencing was so drastically different than what other kids were experiencing, right? And they say one of the worst things that we can do to kids is make them feel different, because we want to feel a part of it. We want to feel a part of the community, not be, different from it. So here you are at 13, 14, you're experiencing these things that other kids aren't experiencing, so you feel different than them. So you did so that you didn't continue to feel broken and ashamed of who you are and what was happening to you. You had to do what is a very human thing to do, and you flipped it and you tried to own it as your strength. You said, well, what I am, I'm an adult because you guys can't handle what I'm up to. I'm up to doing I'm doing wild stuff on the weekend. And that became part of your that identity that you grabbed of, this is why I'm I am who I am, and you did it out of you thought it was coming out of making that identity, but it really was coming out of having that moment, and probably a little bit of the fear and insecurities of knowing I'm not like other people, I don't fit in, something is different about me, I don't know why. So and you didn't have anyone to communicate that with. Nobody was asking you questions, so you felt like you had to do it alone. So you just out of safety of not beating yourself up all the time, you just created this image of who you thought you needed to be, right? I mean, is there any accuracy to that?
Oh, dude, that's 100% nail on the head. And then some, and it just went downhill from there, and it became my identity, I went down this long road of how I cling to this punk rock lifestyle to where I thought basically the more I was screwing up and the more irresponsible and the more crimes I was committing, the more punk rock I was, the more tougher I was, and the more I was cooler than these other kids, and I was more adult than these other kids. And it all started exactly from I was in this situation, and I took this as my personality. This is who I am, and this is my strength, and it just snowballed from there. Like everything you just said.
Yeah. And first off, I just want to say this, and I truly mean this, dude. I really appreciate you being open and vulnerable enough to share your upbringing with not only just the three of us, but with your listeners. I think that
oh yeah,
I really appreciate that, because it's not something that it's a massive strength to be able to be that honest and that open and that vulnerable with things. So I just, hats off to you, and I really appreciate that you would be, willing to put that out there. And the challenge that I would put down to anybody is anytime you catch yourself saying like, oh, well, that's just how I am. That's just who I am. And you look at it and you're like, okay, why? Like, ask yourself, where do things come from? And this is not to say that everything, it's not like everything that we are is bad and it needs to be recorrected. But what we do a lot of times in coaching is we look at like, what do I believe about myself? And is that serving me the best way possible for what I want in the future? So when you say, okay, I think that I'm this way, my goal, the way that I want to be, right? And this makes we have to make a decision on who we want to be. It's like, who do I want to be? Okay. And then look at the gap and go, why is there a gap? Why do I behave the way that I behave when it doesn't serve me for who I want to become? And when we start getting honest with ourselves, we can start to unpackage a lot of that stuff and understand, oh, well, I believed that because this happened and this happened. And now maybe we can start to rewire a little bit of our thought process of like, well, how can I change my thoughts? Like, how can I change my thoughts so that I actually end up getting the results that I want?
Right.
Rather than just sitting this very stereotypical, or like in staying in the same rut my entire life. Like, how do I change my thought processes so that I can get myself the desired results?
And it's very easy to stay in those ruts.
Self-awareness and really asking yourself the difficult questions.
Yeah, like, it's so easy to stay in those ruts. Like, some people out there believe that no one can change, and we are all who we are, and we will always be that way. Man, it's because, old habits die hard, like, very hard. And what people have to understand is that it's very hard to kick a habit, but it is not impossible. And people give up half the time just on their beliefs that it's not possible, or that it's too hard, or that I'm just going to always be this way. Well, no, like, you're always going to be this way because you always have been this way, and the only thing you need to do is to change being this way is to concentrate on changing being that way.
Yeah. I think a lot of people, we grow up with and we develop a legitimate, either low level or massive hatred towards ourselves. Self-hatred of, I could have been so much better, or I should be,
yeah.
I know that I'm capable of more, but I don't work. We're so difficult and harsh on ourselves because of because of the comparison, because of all these different things, and people legitimately don't believe in themselves, or they think that they're not worth it, or that they're not important. When the truth is, we all are important. We all have amazing things that we're capable of doing and being. We all can be incredibly, amazing people.
Yeah.
But it just, it does take a little bit of work. It takes some, not even just work, it takes some intention. And I think that's the problem, is like so often we just stop and we say life is what it is because it is what it is.
Yeah, I wish it was different, but right? There's nothing I can do about it.
So what are we, there's the for people in recovery, the very popular thing is the serenity prayer, which is, grant me the serenity to, understand the things that, or Why? Oh wow! I don't know why I'm tripping up on it when it's normally something that just comes out, but it's pulling it up because now I feel bad that here I am in recovery for so long and I forget this thing. But it's God. Grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change.
Gosh damn it.
The courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And it's like when there's a massive, like, life gets really simple when you adopt the understanding that there's a lot of things that are not within your ability to change.
Yeah.
And there's a small fraction, yet a very powerful fraction of things in your life that is inside of your ability to change it. And if you can get to a place where you take ownership of that place that you can control, which is normally basically only yourself.
Yeah.
If you can control that and you can get to a place where you say, what do I have the ability to change? Man, life can just get really amazing. And I feel like that's kind of, if we're going to wrap this whole thing up and say, like, what did we talk about? I think we talked a lot about personal responsibility.
Yeah, I think this all kind of stemmed from I don't know how this started, but we brought up, it's like I'm going through a lot of revelations of my own personal responsibility and what am I not being responsible about and what can I be more responsible about. And I guess another way you put what you just said is, like, I always thought about the saying that, like, you can't change what happens, you can't decide what happens to you, but you can decide how you handle it. That kind of, like, puts what you said in a nutshell.
Yeah, dude. I think it's this has been good, man. I think it's been good.
I'm not too sure how long you have left. I know you said earlier that during text messages that you have a meeting to go to. We have two questions. Yeah. We have 2 questions left, and I'm going to go ahead and shoot both of them to you and respond accordingly. One is, are you currently producing anything or working on any TV projects? And the other question is, how's California? How's In-N-Out Burger? And are you ready to make the change to Whataburger when you move to Texas?
So current projects. So I actually let's see what is the biggest things I can kind of. So I had a show that came out on that I was a producer on that came out on Netflix back in November. That's out right now. That is called West Side. You'll see that on Netflix. It's a music documentary about some people here in LA. Another show that I did for. Yeah, I did a show that's going to be coming out on E! In the next. I think it comes out in early February. That will be. It's called Dating No Filter. So that was a dating show, which was really interesting. And then I am currently kind of, I've been working on some development projects, some new shows that we're going to be kind of, deciding on how the formatting should go, and then creating things. And so always kind of in the mix with stuff. You guys can always stay up to date with me. It's at Phillip Andrew. And if you're listening still and you haven't left and abandoned us yet, we appreciate you and thank you very much. We appreciate you hanging out with us for this time. And you can connect with me, philipandrewla@gmail.com or philipandrew.co or at philipandrewla. There you go. There's my little pitch. And then how is California? It's actually raining today, which is very uncharacteristic. But I love it out here. I grew up in Detroit, and I'm a big fan of Detroit. But there's just something about, I grew up that very stereotypical Midwest kid that watched all the California movies and wanted to be by the beach and around Hollywood, and I've always enjoyed that life. So I love it out here. I mean, you figure there's a lot of opportunity. I always kind of laugh, like, greater Los Angeles is, like 10 million people, 10, 11 million people. In the entire state of Michigan is like 9.9 million. So you have a city, like a greater metropolitan area, that is the entire population of the whole state that I grew up in.
Yeah.
And so when you just take that, there's just so much opportunity if you're willing to look for it. And in this, this is one thing that kind of something I talk with a lot of the kids about when we talk about career development and how to make yourself as valuable. And I guess I could give this as a kind of a little bit of a takeaway. It is not valuable. No one gets paid money to find problems. The people that make a lot of money get money because they solve problems. There's a big difference. Anybody can look at something and say that's wrong. or this is bad, or it should be different, or that's anyone can point out the problem, right? Like anybody can break the phone or notice that the phone is broken. The skill comes in being able to fix the phone and scale that out, and that's with everything in life. If we want, if you're listening to this and you're someone that wants to be an entrepreneur, or you want to just make more money, or you just want to have a more successful life, we can't be the type of people that are always looking for problems. The problems are there, but we got to be looking for the solutions. If we can start to always look for the solution, and we can say, okay, in any given scenario, what is the opportunity here? What is the possibilities? And what resources do I have to solve this problem? Like if we can be resource people, opportunity people, and resource opportunity solution people, like my goodness, like that's where you are valuable from a financial standpoint.
Man, I'm gonna make a business card that says Keenan Kitchens Resource Opportunity and Solution. Just start handing out to people, and like when people call me about their problems, I'll solve them.
Right? I mean, that's what we need, right? Like it's so easy to find, and it's so easy to look at the problems, and I think that's what happens is everyone starts looking at the problems of their lives, and then they never take the time to figure out, okay, what's the solution? Because there always is a solution. There's always an opportunity. There's always a possibility. And to answer your last bit, I'm going to catch a lot of flack here. I'm actually not a big In-N-Out guy.
I was going to say, as soon as you said that, I was like, he likes Whataburger. No.
I actually don't know if I've even had Whataburger. But
it's kind of a Texas only thing. I feel like the meme is only shared in Texas. So
I don't even know if you've ever came across such a meme. Yeah, there's probably a lot of memes like that, but
usually they go Five Guys versus In-N-Out.
Oh yeah. But around here it's In-N-Out versus Whataburger.
But I'm not a big fast food guy. I'm not a big fast food guy.
Oh well, yeah, well that makes sense. Yeah.
I'll tell you what though. Like I would 100%. Like if we came down there, man, I would definitely. I love me some Texas barbecue. 100%.
Oh, yeah,
so.
Yeah, if you came down, I know exactly the places to go too.
Amazing, dude, amazing. Well, hey, you guys, I just want to thank you very much for allowing me the opportunity to kind of come on your show and talk with you a little bit, and I enjoy the open format, and I enjoy just kind of getting in and talking, dude. It's been great.
Yeah. Dude, thank you so much for coming on our show. It was a great opportunity for us to interview you. And I'm just very, like I said, I really like you, man. You're fun to talk to.
He was a good guy.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it, guys. I really appreciate it. And, keep me in the loop, man. Let me know what you guys are up to. And, we'll have to do it again soon in the future, man. I'd love to come back and get a recap.
Oh, yeah, we'd love that, too.
All righty, guys. Take care.
Take care. Bye, man.
Wow, what a great guest. That was awesome. If you do not agree, well, you are wrong. Which, hey, it's okay to be wrong. Because this is Opinions and Beer. Opinions and Beer. Opinions and Beer. Can't go wrong with opinions and beer. Opinions and beer. Opinions and beer. All we've got here are opinions and beer.